Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between. Welcome back to Extratyne on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. Now, from the beginning of the day, we went from a full house. We've lost 2 players to injuries, but luckily our squad depth is better than Newcastle United's at the moment. So we've still got a full team that's going to represent Extratyne as best as they possibly can. So as you can see, over on this side, I'm joined by Scott. And of course, the irrepressible Ian there, fresh from his efforts in the Great North Run. We both went through hell and back, and I've lost a toenail, and I'm not sure what you lost, Ian. Did you lose anything?
Me dignity, me nipples. Nearly lost me life. It was horrendous. Never again, but it was all for a good way. It was for a good cause, yeah.
Yeah, all for a good cause. And Scott, how are you doing, my friend? How's things in Amsterdam?
Absolutely fine. Didn't do any running. I haven't done any running for about 30 years, so that'll teach me. But no, it's good. It's starting to get a bit nippy, as I say. The hood, it's turned into hoodie season a little bit, so it's
it is.
The bare months are well and truly in effect.
Yeah, I did one of my first sessions in school today, based around the autumn, and talking about muddy puddles, muddy dog walks, and warm fires, blankets, and woolly pajamas. I'm ready for it. So as you can see, yes, we are. Laura, unfortunately, and Braza have both. They haven't got the COVID, but they have got a little bit of the flu, a little bit of the cold going on. So they've had to bow out this evening. But don't you worry. We've got everything covered this evening. So thank you very much for joining us on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. Now, speaking of which, rumor has it we are 60 subscribers away from having 9,000 subs on the channel, which is an amazing achievement. So ask your granny, ask your daughter, ask your brother, ask your auntie, ask your Uncle Bartholomew, whoever it is, friend, your neighbor, somebody who delivers the milk, somebody who drops off the paper. Tell them to follow the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and really help us push towards that 9,000. And then hopefully you can get towards that 10,000. You can just be a regular subscriber, or you can become a member for £2.99, which gets you some extra content from the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. So well worth it. But also you can get your updates by clicking on that little bell, and that gives you all the updates as to when there's new videos uploaded as well. So please get involved with that. So there's no game this weekend, but there is a lot still going on in the world of Newcastle United. There's a little first international break of the season for the Nations Leagues. Obviously, England are taking on, they're going to Italy, and they're playing Germany. So 2 big games. We've got an update on that as well. We'll be chatting about that. Of course, Nick Pope will be in that squad, and Kieran Trippier, as well as former Newcastle player Ivan Toney, which we'll come on to. Really interested seeing him spoken to, and I think it's a well-deserved call up, but we'll go on to that later. And of course, big news at Newcastle United is Elliot Anderson's been given a long term, which we believe might be 4 years, but long term used to mean 6, 7, 8 years, depending on how much of Alan Pardew you are. So there's lots going on. We've got the Qatar World Cup coming up as well, so players will be jostling for position with that in mind. So also we've got some comments from Simon Jordan. We've got some observations of ASM's recovery, and we'll chat a little bit in non-league. Laura's tipped us off with a few non-league games that are going on this weekend, which will start on Friday night, actually. So definitely worth getting down to your local game if you possibly can. Thanks to those people for joining us as well. We've got Tom. He was first in with the comments. Really good to see him. Malcolm's watching, despite the fact that Laura's poorly. So thank you very much. We've got Freddie and we've got Murray, and hopefully plenty more will be added as the word spreads that Extratyne is back. So enough of me chuntering on. And by the way, just before you get started, I'm going to get in there first. And yes, I do realise I'm wearing this hat, and I do look a little like Reggie from The Nutty Professor. I understand that, yes. So just embrace it. I don't wear me shorts, me underpants quite as high, and I'm not quite as funny as Reggie is. But yes, I've got my little checker box hat on there. So I suppose we best start with the top news of the day, of this week. Scott, a new contract for Elliot Anderson. We know it's a long-term contract. We believe it's 4 years. I'm not sure what's being confirmed, but what's your thoughts on that and the kind of inference that we're going to start creating a bit of a pathway for those players in the youth ranks at Newcastle? Great news, isn't it?
It is. It's fantastic news, especially for Elliot Anderson himself. Obviously, a local lad who, just watching his interview, you can tell he's just beaming. He's absolutely buzzing with his contract that he's just getting. And he also, I think, I saw the day he signed with Gareth Bale's agents as well. So maybe that had something to do with it. He's got a new agent as well in all this. So maybe a higher percentage has been taken from his new contract through that, but I'm sure he's still happy nonetheless. I know we did a keep, sell, or loan video before the season started, and I think we were all in agreement that it should be possibly be loaned out to a championship club, depending on who came through the door through us. As it turns out, he stayed, which is always nice. It's just nice to see the club investing, like, I mean, I was going to say in the youth, but we're investing in all areas, general. And it's just so nice to see. We were buying players in the summer transfer window for the youth team, and you very rarely saw that under the previous regime. And Elliot Anderson's one of them that, Joey Barton called him the Geordie Messi. Or was it the Geordie Maradona?
Geordie Maradona,
yeah. Geordie Messi as well. So I think when he's come on for us this season, he's done well. He's impressed. He's actually boosted the squad a bit, and he's boosted it more than some of the most senior players have done when they have come on for their little cameo role. So it's fully deserved, and I hope it means we'll see a lot more of him in the first team, not just in the cups, but maybe he's getting some starts in the league as well soon.
Yeah. Anybody who saw the game against Bournemouth, we'll have a quick chat about that in a minute, but the lads did an Always Smiling Faces podcast about that. I listened to that the other day. Really, really good. Some really quite in-depth analysis of that game, and talking about the squad depth, and sort of Ian thinking about Elliot Anderson. I mean, we wouldn't have thought that we would have been looking at the bench the weekend gone and thought, God, Elliot Anderson could have made a big difference on Saturday. I know that Decker and the lads talked about how possibly we left things a little bit late, but did we miss a player like Elliot Anderson, with that rawness, that freshness, to try and break down a really stubborn, credit to them, the Bournemouth side? Do you think we missed him? We could have used him in that game?
Yeah, definitely. I watched most of the pre-seasons, and I've obviously seen the majority of the games this season. And it just looks like he's trying to grasp every opportunity that he's given. He's not sort of just resting on his laurels, like, I've come through the academy, I'll sort of weasel my way into the first team. He's there on merit. I think as well, because I always thought he was a good option to have maybe as a number 10, but when he came on, it looks like he's being played sort of out on the left, and I think he just looks very, very dangerous. He looks like he wants to get at people, and obviously against Bournemouth, we missed sort of that attacking threat with the likes of Saint-Maximin missing out. But yeah, it's really, really good to see a young lad come through sort of the ranks and then work his way into the first team. I think arguably the last person to do that was probably Andy Carroll. And we used to produce obviously good young talent, and like Scott was saying, the video that we're doing in the buy loan sell. What one was it?
Sell loan.
Sell loan. That was it.
Sell loan.
Because obviously he was with Bristol Rovers, who I think were in League Two, so we were saying Championship would be a good level step up, but he's proven his worth in the Premier League. He done really well. I think when he came on against Palace, he done really well. He showed quality against like the likes of Liverpool as well. So I'm very, very happy for that. And I think it was Ashworth was saying that he doesn't just want to buy players; he wants to also invest in the youth to bring them through. It's not just about buying players to become ultimately the best club in the world. You need, like I say, the people from the region that get the club, and he's definitely one of them.
Yeah, and I think I did read today or a couple of days ago about some recent changes or future changes to the financial model for Premier League teams. So, it is going to be vital that we invest in, and I think, like you're saying, Ian, there, that the hierarchy at Newcastle are going to invest in that academy. Obviously, that takes time to come to fruition. You know, we're maybe 5-6 years away from getting those players 5 or 6 into the first team, or in and around the first team, to use a Steve Bruce phrase. But yeah, I think it's really important for us, isn't it, to develop that side of Newcastle. For years, it's been, you know, poor players have come through. And then we've, you know, good players. Maybe he's like Bobby Clark is probably an example of the most recent one that springs to mind. He's gone off to Liverpool, you know, and he's probably had a better, you know, with a better chance to play around better players, to be in a better infrastructure right now. So hopefully we won't be losing those types of players in the future, but we shall see. But yeah, I'll be excited to see Elliot Anderson when he is back. Scott, do you know when Elliot Anderson's back? I think he was injured. Do you know, will he be back for the Fulham game? Do you think he's going to be ready for selection there?
I haven't seen or read anything. And Eddie Howe didn't bring it up in the press conference before the match either. So yeah, I'm going to assume it's probably just either a little niggle or maybe he was, you know, sick, something like that. But I haven't seen anything written about why he was out. If anyone does know, obviously put it in the comments. But if not Fulham, probably the game after, which I think is it Brentford who've got after?
Brentford at home, I think.
Brentford at home,
yeah. 2 games that he could easily start, and as Fish and Rhodes has been saying in the comments there, could quite easily start against either of those.
Yeah, I think, like you're saying there, you know, this was echoed, or this was said in the match review the other day about, you know, Amir and Willock Fraser, although I'm a big fan of the wee man. He's one of my favourite players, but we did look limited. As we're starting to get a couple of better players, we can see that some of those players that are in that squad are below the level to make an impact on the team. So we shall see who comes through. Another little concern that came out of the Sweden camp over the last couple of days is Alexander Isak. I'm going to go with that pronunciation. We believe that he's been sent home. Sweden were due to have 2 Nations League games. Ian, should we be worried about all of these injuries that we seem to be just collecting at the start of the season? Is it a concern for you? It certainly is for me.
I think it's more bad luck than anything else. Obviously, football's a physical game. There's physicality to it. That you're only human. You can only put your body through so much. But it doesn't help that I think it was Matty was saying in a group chat this morning that it's literally your 3 best players, including your record signing, that were missing. You wouldn't really be that bothered if it was the likes of Jacob Murphy or even Chris Wood. No disrespect to them, but I think as well, because I've seen like a graph, I can't remember, it might have been someone from Gallowgateshots had retweeted it, and it was like a graph of how hard we're pressed and how many turnovers we force from, and I think there was us and Man City that were right up at the top. So I think it potentially has a lot to do with how Eddie Howe is addressing the squad in terms of how he wants to press teams. We're working a lot harder statistically than pretty much every other Premier League club. Yeah. That being said, it's obviously comes with a few drawbacks. I just hope that it's a case of, because there was no real detail of what Isak was sent home for. It was just a little feeling. You don't know whether that's a feeling of sickness, whether it's a niggle.
Nothing more than feelings.
Whether he misses the northeast. I know I'm pretty sure Sweden's a lovely, lovely place. Pretty sure Scott would vouch for that because he's probably been there before.
I'm sure he has.
But yeah, it is a little bit concerning that this early into the season you're missing key players already. But it's part and parcel of the game. It's just unfortunate, really.
Yeah. And I think somebody in our group chat was saying about Klopp when he first went to Liverpool and he brought up the intensity. They did get a lot of injuries, and they haven't done so badly in the last few years. So perhaps Newcastle could be on the verge of winning the Champions League and the league in the next 5 or 6 years. Who knows? We can dream. We can but dream, despite the injuries in the current climate. So yeah, also something really interesting. I try to stay away from TalkSport or anything that associated with TalkSport because it's so frustrating, especially Darren Bent talking absolute gibberish. But Simon Jordan was posed the question about are Newcastle flattering to deceive? A lot to be made about the money that's being spent. You know, Sven Botman in the more recent past. Bruno's joined us, Kieran Trippier. You know, we've had some good players join us. So, Scott, I'll throw that question over to you. In general, in speaking, I suppose, you know, we're a few games into the season. Haven't quite hit that 10-game mark, I don't think, which Steve McLaren was always bollocking on about. I couldn't think of a better way than bollocking on about. I think I might have just invented a new phrase.
There.
Bollocking on about. He was always going on about this 10-game and seeing where we are after 10 games. And I think with him, 10 games between 20 and then 20 games, you know, it went on and on and on. But what do you think, Scott? Are we flattering to deceive?
I don't think so. I think, you know, I did see what Simon Jordan said as well. And actually, for one of the very rare occasions, I completely agreed with what he was saying. You know, it's so strange to hear him speaking not positive, but not negative about Newcastle. Making sense. Yeah. I mean, he's right what he says. You know, we have only won one game. Is that a worry? It would be if we hadn't drew 7. If we'd lost all those other games, then yeah, you'd be panic stations. But we're 10th in the league. Like, that's where I would expect us to be finishing the season, between 10th and 7th. You know, and that's a push going up to 7th, I would say. I think if you watch us week in, week out, like all of us do, you'll see that the performances, apart from this weekend, probably was the only exception. The performances have probably all been there to win those games. And we haven't had an easy run-up of games. You know, I mean, like Simon Jordan says, you've played Man City, you've played Liverpool, and you haven't lost either of those games. Exactly. There isn't going to be many other teams
Liverpool
this season.
Where we did get
we did get bit of Liverpool, didn't we?
Yeah.
But there isn't going to be many other teams this season that can not only get a point from those 2 games, but also take the game to them. And for 90 minutes or 96 and a half minutes against Liverpool, we did. And against Man City, I mean, I couldn't believe when that 3rd goal went in. I was in la land, just could not believe that we were 3-1 up against Man City. I knew it was going to come back, and I knew that they'd probably come back and equalise or, you know, beat us eventually, because that's the type of side that Man City are. But in terms of flattery, I mean, you've got to look at our squad and you've got to think, right, yeah, we've made these signings. We've spent, 209 million, I think it is, over since the takeover, which, is a lot of money. But when you think up to then, I think our net spend was around -2 million or something when you take and subtract like incomings, outgoings from the Ashley era. So, I mean, you cannot blame her for spending the money because it was absolutely needed. And to be honest, more is needed, but we are restricted by financial fair play. We're not, but if we want to spend more, we're then restricted in the future when probably that's when we want to be able to spend more money. It's going to. I know there's a lot of fans who will say like just spend the money and they're all on about, you know, sign this player, sign that player, and you know it's only 50 million. Go after Maddison, this and that. But at the end of the day, we've got a squad who can compete right now. Maybe it's not the best squad in the world in terms of, you know, numbers on kind of stat sheets, but Eddie Howe's getting a song out of these group of lads, and you know if he can continue to do that, then maybe this slow and steady is the way to do it. And maybe this is the way that, you know, I know the new owners are probably wanting it to happen. When they took over, Staveley was like, 5 years we're going to be competing, 10 years we're going to be winning something. Like, that seemed to have just gone out the window as soon as the summer transfer window came along for a lot of people. And it was like, no, we need it now. And it's like, no, this is a slow burn.
It's almost like people think it's like Football Manager and FIFA. Like, oh well, we'll just go and buy this player for this amount. It's like that's not how it works. Just to chime in on like the whole point. Like, if I look at it where I expect the points to be, I think realistically, I had from what I would expect the results to be to what they actually are. I think there's only 3 points difference. You would look at arguably home games against Palace and Bournemouth. You would argue that you should be winning them. But then there's the point against Man City, which no one's seen. Brighton, when you look at them, they've been going really, really well. We never really do well down there, and we've not lost, we've not conceded.
Mm-hmm. And they've shown that they are a good side as well, haven't they?
Very good side.
You know,
I mean, even to be honest, even Palace, I think under Vieira, they're a very, very difficult side to break down. They're a very good footballing side. And yes, there's been decisions goes against her, which arguably could have changed the course of games and changed the course of the points. But I think realistically, yes, it would be nice to have another couple of wins, but arguably, if we had basically, if you won 2 games, you'd have 6 points. If you drew 6 games, you'd have 6 points. It's the same amount of points. For me, I look at the positives. You've only lost 1 game. I think half of the games we've played, we've kept clean sheets. And yes, some of those draws should have been wins, but for me, it proves that you're a very difficult side to beat.
Yeah.
And like Scott was saying, although we don't have the best squad in the world in terms of depth and things like that, he is getting the song out of them, and it'll only be a matter of time before we start moving players on and replacing them with better quality, where some of those losses would turn into draws, some of those draws would turn into wins. So if you take a step back and look at it, I think people just need to chill out that we're not winning the Champions League this season. Like,
far from it. Yeah,
chill.
I think you know, like Freddie's saying here, you know, echoing what you're saying there about the Palace and the Bournemouth games, and we've been in every single game. So I think you know, we raised some really, really good points there, and I think the majority of the fan base, I think, probably feels that way. It's just every so often you know, somebody goes off on one about we should be doing this, should be doing that, but it's a process, it's a plan.
You just have to look at where we were this time last season.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean,
exactly.
You know, if by Christmas we've only won 1 game, but we're still mid-table, I'll take that all day. I don't want to be bottom of the table at Christmas.
Yeah. Our expectations just need to be tempered. Probably.
I think the big feeling for me is if I look at like Scott was saying, this time last year I was thinking it's relegation. This time I've not even thought about even being close. And I mean, I haven't really looked at the league in terms of that depth. I mean, we could for all I think maybe 4 or 5 points off the bottom 3, but you don't feel like there's a risk of getting sucked into it. You're quite confident with the players and what Eddie Howe's doing. So, like I say, I don't think, yes, in an ideal world you would want to win a couple of more games, but I don't think we're underwhelming. I think it's just a case of trying to find the right sort of right connections with the right players and getting a couple of rubs of the green, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. I think you're both right. So onwards and upwards. Looking forward to that Fulham game, which I'm sure there'll be a match preview coming up for that one. Scott, have you got one in there?
We're doing that next week.
Brilliant.
We'll get
Brilliant.
that.
Keep your eyes out for that, lads. Keep your eyes out for that, lads and lasses. Sorry, keep your eyes out for that. Right. Just before we kind of move on from Newcastle-related topics, although I'm sure we'll circle back to something in the end. We always end up, you know, talking ourselves back around. Alan Saint-Maximin was posting some impressive numbers. Not only did he win the goal of the month for that absolute wonder strike at Wolves, he also, you know, he registered a pretty decent 10K. I believe he ran it in 27 minutes and 44 seconds, if the digital readout is to be believed. Now, I think the fastest ever recorded 10K was 26 minutes and however many seconds. Now that was on road, and this is on a treadmill. I know there is a difference between those two things, I'm sure, but looks like he could be fit, ready for the Fulham game. Scott, do you think there is that old tagline about players being injured and becoming better players, but we are a far better team with Alan Saint-Maximin in the squad and in and around that first 11. Will you be looking forward to seeing him back and straight into that team? And if Wilson comes back, you're going to start with, for me, ASM, Wilson, and Isak on that sort of like outside forward position.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? You're a bit more of a tactical, knowledgeable person, tactically knowledgeable person than me. So first the ASM question, and then the deployment of Alexander Isak. What's your take on that then?
It's a tough one, that, because I would look to play him in behind Wilson for Isak, and maybe he's not sacrifice the right midfield, the right winger, but have him where he can drift out there if he needs to be, but use Trippier more as a more of an old-fashioned wing back and get him forward a bit, and then rely on your central defensive midfielder to kind of drop back and cover when he's up the pitch. However, I'm not Eddie Howe, and my tactical awareness only goes as far as Football Manager. So it's not the best of anything, but it's something, shall we say? When it comes to Saint-Maximin, I mean, you cannot not look forward to him coming back. Like that goal against Wolves can just epitomise the entire performance of Saint-Maximin, where you could be on the verge of losing the game, or you could be on the verge of being on the back foot, and then he comes out with something like that after a rather strange cross and clearance from Jacob Murphy and the Wolves defender. For him to just smack that one the way he did it, and for it to go where it went, I don't think it was a fluke. I think he 100% intended to do what he did, which is even more impressive. In terms of his run, I think if you watch his Instagram post that he actually made, he was on a bike. And it was the Chronicle who said he was running. So I don't know what.
He was on a bike.
I don't know what Lee Ryder's been smoking, but he obviously doesn't know the difference between a bike and a treadmill. But he would have actually. I think he would have beat Mo Farah in the Olympics at the pace that he went. I think that was the thing that was touted through. So absolutely, I mean, Saint-Maximin coming back is a huge boost for anyone who's a Newcastle fan, whether you like him or not, whether you mock him, whether you decker. It's just one of those things where if he's on the pitch, he not only is a threat, but he forces mistakes from defenders. He'll get the ball and he'll run, and obviously he'll do his cut in or he'll take a shot, and he's that unpredictable that they'll put two men on him, and that'll give Isak or Wilson freedom, where if he can then find a pass, or what usually happens is he'll make his run and he'll either find Matt Targett or Joe Linton, who then allow him to make another run so he can get the ball and then play it to Wilson or Isak or whoever's up front, and that's fine as long as it gets to them. But I think if you watch the game at the weekend, the Bournemouth game past, we just weren't moving the ball quick enough. We were maybe one or two passes behind where we should be, and that's what Saint changes, because he'll get the ball and he'll run with it, which takes those one or two passes away from the equation, because he's already 10, 15 yards up the pitch, where you wouldn't normally be that because you're passing sideways. But it's going to be interesting how does when Wilson and Isak are both fully fit, and especially if they're both not only fit, but they're on form and they're both scoring. It's going to be a weird decision, but I still think I would look to play Wilson as the lone striker, but play Isak just off him as almost like a 10 role, but a hybrid right wing as well.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, and hopefully a little bit of time on the training ground. I think we do have to handle him with kid gloves, and I believe as a couple of people have said, he's been spotted running around Monaco's pitch. So hopefully that all bodes well for their visit to Fulham, where we'll encounter a player who's been in some good form and a former favourite of Gallowgateshots and a lot of Newcastle fans, Alexander Mitrovic. He's made a really good start to the season. He's in plenty of people's FPL teams. He's managed to be. I've actually been keeping up to date with it this year so far-ish, kind of. So it'll be interesting to see that game. We do have a decent result, sort of recent history down in Fulham, but those games have tended to be towards the end of the season, where Fulham didn't really have a lot to play for, and we were down there for a bit of a boat trip, bit of a party, and a few nice, lovely goals, including, I think, a nice Bobby and Shaw, I believe. But we shall see. That game is coming up. Before that, of course, there is the England game. So I thought what we'd do this week is we have the England game coming up. We're playing Italy away. So I thought we'd have a quick chat about that. First of all, a lot of controversy. Now, I'm getting away with this because Laura's not on today. We're going to talk about football kits.
Yes.
I know that's her least favourite subject. She really dislikes any chat of football kits, and I'm sure if she's watching from her bed, covered in blankets with plenty of ibuprofen inside of her. That England kit, it caused a bit of controversy. I think when it was seen sort of without, being on a player, I think a lot of people recoiled from it, thinking it was a bit disgusting. But I'll let you know how I feel about it in a moment. But Ian, what do you make of this England kit then? This home kit. What's your opinion? What's your take on it?
I'm not a big fan. I think, to be honest, the Nike template this season, where it's like that, almost like crest. No, that's crescent. That's it. Like over the neckline, like down to the sleeves. I'm not a fan of that at all. Right. It looks better there than it does on the dummies, but I'm not a huge fan of that.
That is a dummy, isn't it?
It looks like he's lookalike, doesn't it? The guy who was like Harry Kane's look like. Yeah, it doesn't actually look like Harry Kane. It looks like.
No, I'm not a big fan of it.
Go on.
I think my England kits growing up. I mean, to be fair, it was always the ones that were the reversible ones where it had like the felt on one of the badges and it like give you nipple rash.
You're obsessed with nipples. Is this twice you've mentioned nipples so far?
It is.
What is going on, mate?
Had a flashback to the Great North Run there. I was going to get PTSD. Someone was like, "Oh, plaster your nipples." Total sidetrack. Plaster your nipples. I was like, "Yeah, definitely, good idea." It fell off before I even crossed the start line. So I was like, at some point, was like I was going to say running. I wasn't. I walked the majority of the way, but I had to like put my thumbs in my vest to keep my vest from rubbing on my nipples. Wasn't a good time. Back to the kit.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, please do. Please go back to the kit. I don't want to hear any more information about your nipples.
I'm not. I don't like the Nike template for this season, and I'm not a big fan of the sort of like the sleeve like color gradient going down.
Yeah.
It's not one of my favorites. I like all white kits. All white tops with navy shorts.
Yeah, I really like that. I think the England women's team was really nice. Is that
was a really nice one?
The white badge with a bit of some sort of like holographic,
almost like hologram on it.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. The away shirt, that's Freddie tickles his parsnips a little bit. I thinks it's all right. And the away one looks like Jay from the In-Betweeners. So let's have a quick look at that away one. Now, one feature of the away shirt I do like. I really like that shirt. I like the nod to the Italia 90. In the collar there with the it's got like some sort of like hashes in the collar. And another feature which I think is absolutely proper lush is they have on the inverse of the collar, if I can find it on me.
The three lions, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got the three lions, which I think is really, really nice. There we go. Let's see if I can just upload that. So, I mean, this is for a player who obviously wears his collar up. I mean, I think that's pretty. I do like that little detail. Although, would it be nicer actually being on the bit you can see normally without putting your collar up? But
no,
maybe
I like that.
I don't. And actually, now you've zoomed in on that picture, that printer on the collar looks like a broken piano. I don't like it now you've zoomed in. When it was the other picture, it looks really nice, but it just looks, unless it's like made by Castor and the stitching's just dodgy.
Is it a DH-gate? Is Trent Alexander-Arnold wearing a DH-gate knockoff?
Do you know what I especially don't like on either of those kits? The star. Why is the star white on the white kit and red on the red kit so you cannot see it? Why isn't it gold?
It's almost like,
why not just
it's almost like we
star?
didn't win it.
Yeah, like it's like the reason you have the star is to show off that you've won a World Cup, and we're hiding it on both the kits. Like, but make it gold.
We are we are English. We do not show off. We are too self-deprecating.
Too modest.
You know, I mean, you might see the badges, you know, the stars on there, but you know, we don't like to talk about 1966. But yes,
they can change a
I think it should be front, centre, really prominent, but
should be this big on the front.
Yeah, a bit like a Puma kit, like the Puma kits.
Oh,
maybe that's why I'm
talking
sat
about
here.
kit templates.
Yeah,
some of them are awful.
Yeah,
some
that
of them
Puma
are really,
ones,
really bad.
absolutely horrific. So we talked about the kit. So let's talk about who is in the squad. And in my excellent introduction, obviously, I did say in amongst the goalkeepers there, we do have Nick Pope. I think it was Henderson and late. Was Henderson? No.
He was no. It was Jordan Henderson. That was the late one.
From Liverpool's late call. Can we argue with the three keepers? Can we argue with the three keepers? I think you know it's difficult to say there's any other England goalkeeper that's better than those three. I don't know what Pickford's doing. Is Pickford injured? Is he suspended?
I think he's injured. Yeah,
he's injured.
I think if no, go
on, Scott. No, I'll let you go, mate.
I think although Pickford doesn't really, he gets a bad rap from Newcastle fans. He is a good keeper. I mean, you cannot deny that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's blatantly number one choice. Although of recent performances, maybe that's down. But the way Gareth Southgate picks his team, it's not on form, and we can all probably see that from who he's picked in the later stages of the side. So I think if Tiny Arms is fit, he gets in first ahead of anyone, which is a shame because, like you say, I think Nick Pope has probably been the best keeper in the league this season.
I think statistically,
he scored the most points in the FPL. I think the only person who's made more saves is the Forest keeper.
Oh no,
I think it was the Forest keeper,
Dean Henderson. Yeah.
So I mean, we've got good goalkeepers, but it's going to be interesting to see who starts. I think Nick Pope will probably go to run off for one of the games, and it'll be Ramsdale for the other.
I mean, I do like Ramsdale. I think I like his personality as well as his goalkeeping. I think as a goalkeeper, you need to have. I like a keeper who's got a bit of personality about them, a bit of crack. I'm gonna go straight. We're gonna come back to what I feel is the controversial ones. I'm gonna go straight to the forwards. No, are they the forwards? Yeah. So I mean, it's a small picture because I pinched it off the FA's website, which I'm sure I'll get told off for. But you've got Tammy Abraham, you've got Phil Foden. Oh no, so you've got Bowen, Foden, Grealish, Ivan Toney, Saka, and Kane. Is that Sterling? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sterling, Saka, and Kane. Yeah.
I don't think there's any controversial ones in there. I mean, Sterling's maybe he's not set the world alight since going to Chelsea, but I do believe that with an England squad, you can't necessarily just pick on form because you need some continuity. Now, how far the continuity goes, I think we'll discuss when we hit those defensive selections. But could you argue with those, Ian? What do you think about that? That selection. Is there anybody there who kind of really stands out? I know none of them stand out because it's a small picture, but is there anything that stand out that you think I can't believe he's made it into the squad?
Only one that gets me, and I don't think he's been great at all, is Jack Grealish. I think he was. Don't get us wrong. I think he's a very, very good player. He was absolutely amazing at Villa. I think he's moved to City. I think he even said it himself that he would never get criticised if he had to start that Haaland did. But I think he's just been completely underwhelming at City. Granted, I don't watch him play every week, but when he was in the Villa, I don't know if it was a case of he was a big fish in a small pond at Villa, and he was almost what we sort of relied on Maxi for, where he would pop up with a goal and an assist. I don't know if, like I say, he's playing in a completely different role to what he used to play in, but I think if you're a £100 million player, you should be able to play in any role blindfolded with a leg tied behind your back, even though that would be very, very difficult. Tammy Abraham, I haven't... Sorry, go on, Roger.
Yeah, I think just coming on to some of those other selections, I think Bowen He's finished last season really, really well. He had a really strong season. But I don't know if any of you saw the interview after the Leicester game when they got beat 6-2 by Tottenham. And Jeff Shreves was being Jeff Shreves. And he asked Maddison some really uncomfortable questions about, obviously the team and the form, but also about his chances of being in the England squad. And Maddison's been in good form. He scored a couple of goals, and maybe he's unfortunate to miss out. But again, I can understand maybe Bowen got into the team towards the end of last season, and maybe Southgate wants to kind of keep that faith in him. And I think he hasn't done it too badly, apart from the last game against Hungary. But sorry, Ian. Sorry, I just went straight over you there. But I thought it was just worth mentioning what Freddie said there.
If Callum Wilson's fit and it stayed fit, does he get in that squad? And if so, who does he replace out of those forwards?
Ooh, very good question. Really good question. For me, let's have a look. I would put him in before, if he's scoring. That's a really good question. If he's scoring, probably Toney. Just purely because Toney's never played for England before and Callum Wilson has. You would maybe sacrifice one of the midfielders and, say Grealish as a midfielder and stick Wilson in, but possibly Bowen, like you were saying, Freddie was saying before there. But for me, Callum Wilson, if he's fit and he's scoring, he should be in every England squad for me. I think he's that. I really do believe he's that good. What are your thoughts on that one? What do you guys reckon?
It's just a case of he cannot stay fit, which is ultimately why he's never in with a shout. Don't get us wrong, he's absolutely terrific player, great goal scorer, a bit of a shithouse as well. But there's no point in having all those qualities if you can't consistently do it. And I think not just when he's been at us as well, he was unfortunate with a couple of injuries, long-term injuries as well at Bournemouth. Yeah. He's just one of those players where, unfortunately, he's injury prone. He's never been able to build up a good momentum to get himself in the England squad as a regular.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. It absolutely does. We're going to leave the controversial one to the end. So we're going to just touch on midfield. Henderson was a late inclusion after weirdly picked
Calvin Phillips.
Calvin Phillips was picked up an injury, even though I don't believe he's played that many games for Man City since he's arrived there. But you can't really argue with Bellingham, brilliant player. Rice in a poor side, I think he's probably the best player given his consistency for England over the last, year to 8 months. Mason Mount was a funny one for me. I don't think he's been in great form with Chelsea. I'm not. Like I say, I don't really watch Chelsea that much. But Scott, do you know anything about Mason Mount? And perhaps he hasn't. I definitely know he hasn't hit the heights he's hit, the last year. But is it one of those things where he's staying faithful to those players who've served them well?
I think so. I think you've got to think about the Euros last year and maybe repay some of those players for the performances that they put in. And I think Mason Mount was, up there with one of our best players of that tournament. Not the best player, but he was, top 5 easy. I think with Chelsea, obviously they've had some troubles with their manager, and that's the reason why he's been replaced so soon. And whether that's the reason why performances have been down throughout the Chelsea camp, I mean, I say that they're still doing okay. They're not like they're not doing a Leicester or a West Ham by any stretch of the imagination, but I think a lot of the, even with Henderson's obviously a sound name for him to pick because you know what you get with Henderson.
Yeah.
He's just going to solidify that central midfield when he comes on because he isn't starting. Like, he isn't getting a start for the game. He doesn't start for Liverpool very much at the moment. He comes on as that cameo role who can, if you win in a game, you can tie that up, or if you lose in a game, you can solidify a little bit. He's a nice option to have. But for Mason Mount, I'm saying no, but then I'm trying to think, well, who else do you pick? Like, I don't know if there's anyone else at the moment who's better than Mason Mount, who would go in an England shirt.
Yeah.
Maybe there is. Maybe it's a player that I'm unaware of. Yeah. But, on his day, he's unplayable. So you've got to really have him.
He is
just
good,
for that. It's the same with the Saint-Maximin argument about us. Like, he's not always playing every game the best, but you start him in case he has a worldie. Like, it's one of those kind of double-edged swords.
Yeah, I think as well, these early England squads, very tricky to pick at the start of the season. Players in and out form, injuries, new managers, new formations. So, I can understand some of Southgate's selections. However, as we hit the defence, I don't understand others. So, I suppose we might as well kick off with the obvious one, fishing rods. Does anyone think Maguire is better than Byrne? I know what we all think in the Gallowgateshots camp. Well, I can predict what we all think in the Gallowgateshots camp. But let's just have a quick, before we dive into that one, let's just have a look. Now, this is even worse, this one. We've got Alexander-Arnold. We've got Chilwell, who I thought, to be fair, was injured. Conor Coady, Eric Dyer, Shaw, Maguire, Reece James. I can never say this. Is it Gay? Mark Gay. Gueye from Crystal Palace, John Stones, Tomori from AC Milan, Trippier there, and they said Des Walker there, show me age. Kyle Walker.
I'll take Des Walker in the side, to be fair.
Yeah, you'll never beat Des Walker. So it was a controversial one, and I suppose we best start with Maguire because he is the obvious one that everybody's kind of eyes have fallen out about, and Southgate does have that balancing act between picking on form and picking on players who've served them well. But, I mean, Ian, Harry Maguire's been, for want of a better expression,
Toney.
Shit for how long?
Forever.
18 months? 18 months, dude.
Since the Euros.
It's been shocking. Shocking.
I think he was absolutely like, it was almost like what Vincent Kompany was to Man City, to Leicester, when he was at Leicester. I thought he was really, really good, solid defender there. And then he's went to Man United, and we've seen that with a lot of players, though, that they've went to Man United, and I don't know whether it's a clash of egos with obviously the big stars that they've had in the last couple of seasons, but I don't get how he's on that squad list at all. I think I can't remember, it might have been like someone like Paddy Power or like someone that takes the piss. And it literally shows Maguire's involvement this season. Whenever he's been on the bench, Man U have won. If he's played more than, I think maybe more than 60 minutes, they've lost. And obviously that's not saying that he is the cause of that, but it's just telling that when he's in your side playing a full game, I don't think he's kind of like, he's taken over almost like what Phil Jones's role was. You know how he became almost like a parody.
He's at the risk of becoming a meme, isn't he? Really, yeah, I think we're at that stage with Harry Maguire. I do think
get it.
I do think I don't agree with a lot of what Paul Merson says, but I think when he first signed for Man United, Paul Merson went on a bit of a rant and said, like, how have they paid this money for a player who, he was good at Leicester and he did what Leicester needed to do, but Leicester weren't a front foot type of team, and Manchester United are expected to be so. And if you look at that England team, he does play in a 3, and having played centre half in a 3 before, I know that you don't trust your centre backs. Certainly, I wasn't trusted when I played there. You don't generally trust your centre backs if you play in a 3, and that's what Merson was saying. And there is an argument that Byrne, he's probably an unfashionable player. He's a bit of an unknown in terms of England squad, but could he play at international level, Dan Byrne, instead of Harry Maguire, Scott? Is it a possibility?
There's no reason why he can't. I mean, he's proven for us that he can, he's got the minerals to do it. And it's a weird one because that question of is Byrne better than Maguire or is Maguire better than Byrne? I think the other question you've got to ask is Maguire better than Lascelles? Because I mean, I would have Lascelles in the England squad over Harry Maguire. And that doesn't mean I want Lascelles in the England squad. I'm just saying, he's been that bad. That's the level he's at. And no disrespect to Jamal Lascelles, he's been an absolute great servant for this club. But he had a class game against Liverpool, but I think if you look at the players that we've brought in, you can see there's a gulf in quality. Yes, he is the club captain, although, like I say, I think he's only started one game. So, the Liverpool game was his one chance, and he took it with both hands. I think he got injured. That's another thing with Lascelles. But to go back to England, again, it's the same with the Mason Mount thing, but with a different type of player. I think based on his Euros performance, that's the only reason he's in that squad.
Yeah.
He's not captain, is he? Harry Kane's the captain.
Harry Kane's captain, yeah.
I was questioning myself there because I thought maybe he's got in because he's England captain, but I'm pretty sure it's Harry Kane. But to be honest, there's a few of those defenders when you look at them, it's like, how have you gotten in? Like Luke Shaw this season has been awful as well.
Yeah.
And again, he's probably in because of his performances at the Euros.
Yeah.
Because he did so well for England, scoring those crucial goals and a couple of assists as well when it mattered. So I think Gareth Southgate's picked a team where maybe he is repaying some debts to the players who maybe he's getting out of sticky situations that have probably kept him his job. Like, I think if we hadn't got to the final of those Euros, you probably wouldn't have Southgate in this, as the manager going into this World Cup. That's usually how it works. You kind of have a tournament, and if you do well, you get the next one, and if you don't do well, then you're out. Like, I think, Southgate probably realizes he might be on borrowed time for some fans and maybe even the FA. So he's picking a safe England squad in terms of let's keep the big six happy and pick more of those players, and then I've got more chance of keeping my job.
I mean,
controversial, but that's how
he is it. I think it probably demonstrated itself in that Italy game. He is a safety. He is a safety Sam, isn't he? He likes to make sure that the back. We're solid at the back and we're hard to beat, but he's not got that flair and that guile in his makeup to really push the boundaries when it comes to squad selection and formations and the way we want to play. Shaw was a great. Shaw's was again a bit like Harry Maguire. He was great for England. He scored a goal in the final, but he's only played 2 or 3 games this season. And like you say, Phillips as well until he was, injured. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one for me, and I think Fishing Rods puts it very, very, very simply. Southgate is a prat. There you go. So there you go. You can't really. It's difficult to argue with that stance with the England side. So I think pretty much all the other players that you could probably say. I love how they do this. They've got that
rubbing the hands.
I feel like Conor Cody's there as a bit of a mascot. I think it's a bit of a wasted space for me. Although I suppose we don't see what goes on behind the scenes, and you might need those types of players to be kind of geeing people up and keeping people positive. Stones has played fairly consistently, I think, for Manchester City. I think he's played a few games. They do play a lot of games, so. I think the obvious ones are Maguire, Shaw, definitely. And you could say, although I do like a player who can cross the ball, Alexander-Arnold's form has dropped off a cliff. Seemingly, that game against Napoli, him and that had to play centre back were an absolute embarrassment. I mean,
it was Gomez.
Gomez, but Van Dijk hasn't been in great form either, I guess. But yeah, it's been a funny start to the season. I think people are still finding their feet. So like I said, these England squads early on in the season are a bit of a strange one. But time is running out for those players who aren't in the squad, who like you Wilsons, those types of players who have got the quality but maybe haven't got the opportunities. But we'll see. A last one on one of our Newcastle players, Trippier, getting much game time ahead of those players. But I think Trippier's there for his attitude, his professionalism, and probably his versatility, I would say. He can play right back or left back, and I think it's valuable to Southgate to have that player. And he's absolutely belter on free kicks and pens. Get that, don't you? So we shall see. I mean, I'm sure we'll all be watching those games. I believe they're screened on Channel 4, but with an eye on that World Cup, it's not far away. So I don't think there's many games left for players to get themselves in and around that England squad. So we all hope to do well. I'm sure it'll be strange singing God Save the King. I wonder if any of them make that mistake and slip the word Queen in there. But a new crown we have, and a new, well, pretty much the same old England side, apart from Ivan Toney. Speaking of which, a new kit, and a couple of new players and a new king. There you go. Happy days. Just touching on Ivan Toney, because I think, despite the fact that he was a bit of a shithouse when he scored against Newcastle, probably rightly so, given he's probably he felt a bit hard done by the previous hierarchy at Newcastle. I'm all for that. I love that he's being called up. Scott, do you think it's it's time to give him a chance? And we definitely need that player he's got that raw hunger. He's got that he's played lower down in the divisions. He's a bit like a Vardy character, but he's young and he's hungry, and he's not a bad footballer either, which is probably the main part of it. Scott, would you agree with that inclusion?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to think for the future. And the sooner you can get these kids into the England squad, give them that experience. And even if he comes on for 10, 15 minutes in one of the games, like, that'll mean the world to him. But it'll also give him that confidence where if he does go to the World Cup, he's now not just being thrown in as your debut is in the World Cup. Nobody wants that. Like, you've got to get a few games under your side, because international football is a bit different to league football. You're not playing with the same players week in, week out. You don't know the players that you're playing with. And also the players you're playing against, you're not really seeing them week in, week out either, because, they're all over the world or over Europe or wherever it is. So I think the sooner you get these type of players in the squad, the better. I think it's 100% deserved. He's been outstanding last season and this season. For me, he was standout last season as, from one of the promoted sides. He was the player that kind of set the league alight from that perspective. He was speaking. I saw I think he was interviewed yesterday or the day before, and he was asked about Newcastle. And although, he was like, yeah, look, it wasn't the right time. They didn't really use me at all. He didn't have a bad word to say against her. He was very professional, which I'm not going to lie to you, I was quite surprised based on his social media comments about, I don't play for anyone important. Just Bournemouth. Not
Brentford.
Bournemouth. Yeah, it's Brentford. That's it. He definitely doesn't play for Bournemouth. And then there was something else he said. Oh, it was Brentford or something.
Fuck Brentford, yeah.
So I think he's probably matured a little bit since then, but still, getting him in the squad as early as possible. Like I said, I don't expect him to start. We've got Harry Kane, who's probably going to be the starting striker. But a cameo for the last 10, 15 minutes, if we're winning, will do him the world of good when it comes to giving him that international experience and giving him his first cap. Because it's all good getting in the squad, but you've got to get that. I think, do you get the cap unless you get on the pitch, or I don't know how that works?
Yeah, I think you've got to play,
don't you?
Yeah, and as well, I think with Ivan Toney, I don't believe he misses many games with injury. He's very durable, and he's a pain in the arse to play against. So he might have a rude awakening when he gets on the scene of international football, where the dark arts are a very prevalent feature of those games, and it's really important, I think, that he learns very quickly how to play on that international scene, because players like him, raw, aggressive, can come quickly unstuck, I think, in the international game when the dark arts come out. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him play for England. I really like him as a player. I really hope, I'll be really pleased if Newcastle re-signed him in the summer, because I think we do need a durable, consistently playing striker, much as I love Wilson. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. I'll be really intrigued to see. So I suppose we might as well make some predictions while we're here with the Italy and Germany game. You don't have to give me goals scored or anything like that. What do you think? Win, lose or draw? Or if you want to dip your toe in the water and give us a prediction on a score, I'll be quite happy to have it. Scott, what do you reckon?
I think we'll get beat off Italy, but I think we'll beat Germany.
Okay.
Just because of their keeper, and there's another player who's got COVID. So I think the Germany are a good side when they've got Manuel Neuer in between the sticks. But if he's not playing, I don't know what their backup's like. I don't know who it is, but it's not Manuel Neuer. So they're immediately at a disadvantage from that.
Maybe he's the killer. Yeah. Is it Ter Stegen maybe from Barcelona? Is he
Maybe it
still
is,
there?
yeah.
I don't know.
Potentially.
That's not a bad backup to have.
We'll favour that.
To be fair.
Not bad. Ian, what's your thoughts on the next two England games? Italy away and Germany at home. What do you think?
I agree with Scott. I think we'll probably get beat off Italy. I don't think we'll do much. I don't think we'll beat Germany. I think it'll probably be a draw. If I'm honest, I don't like the Nations League or whatever it is. I just not a fan. To be honest, even the qualifiers, like when qualifiers for the World Cup and stuff like that, I don't have much of an interest in England, possibly because there's not a lot of, or there wasn't a lot of Newcastle players in at the time. Tell us about it. It's been like that for about 6 months, possibly before I even moved in as well. But I'm a big the big tournaments. Big tournaments is where you obviously get the big tournament feel. Although this one, I'm not looking forward to that much because as a winter one, it just doesn't seem like a real World Cup. But I'm sure I'll watch the games. But I think loss against Italy, draw against Germany. But at the end of the day, I'm not really that bothered about England.
Yeah. Just a really quick one, a yes or no. Will Southgate be the manager in Qatar?
Yeah, I think that'll probably be his last tournament. Just when Scott was on about that, I actually thought had Potter stayed at Brighton, he possibly would have been the next England manager. But obviously, with his move to Chelsea, I don't think that would be on the cards now.
I think Sean Dyche is probably going to be the bookies' favourite if Southgate goes. I would imagine he's still at the club.
Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche as England manager, I think he'd be all right. Well, that's the Burnley way. If for anyone who watches Atletico Mints, I think you do all right. I think you pick players based on the performance.
You heard it like him, but
if Sean Dyche,
I'm moving on from England
because it's literally Mike Bassett.
I can't believe you just said that, Scott. My respect for you as a football knowledgeable person has just really dwindled there. I had you up on this pedestal of knowing your crack.
I didn't say it was my choice. I said it would be Bookie's favourite.
Oh my God, you've just absolutely killed us there. Right, moving on from England. Thank you very much, lads, for that. Laura did prepare before she was struck down with the lurgy. She did prepare us a little bit of. She loves a non-league. She loves going to see her and Mal love to go and see a non-league game. So this weekend, if there's the England games Friday night and Monday night, I believe. So there is time there if you've got a little bit of time on your hands. There are a few Northeast teams local to you probably playing at home in various competitions. We've got the FA Vars, FA Trophy, and obviously we've got some Northern League games. So just a quick rundown of ones that stand out. Friday night, if you don't fancy the England game, you could get down to Hebburn Town, and they're playing in a 7:45 kickoff against Stockton in the FA Trophy, which might be worth a look. I think Hebburn Town are on a really good trajectory at the moment, so I think it's really interesting to will be interesting to get down there. North Shields as well are playing in that competition, I believe, and they play Runcorn Linnets. I don't know what a Linnet is. Google it and find out. They play on Saturday at 3 o'clock, and Saturday as well, Berkeley Town are playing. A couple other ones in Division 1 in the Northern League. We've got Newcastle Benfield playing at home. Chelsea Street in Division 2 are playing at home. They've got Willington. Blythe Town are playing. I don't think that's Blythe Spartans. I think that's Blythe Town. They're playing. And in the FA Vars, we've got a few games. Got Bedlington Terriers are playing in the Vars. Whitley Bay are playing in the Vars. Well, Whitley Bay versus Wrighton and Crow Crook Albion. So they've got a good game there. I said Berkeley Town are in the Vars. Heaton Stannington are playing in the Vars as well. So some really good games for you to potentially get down to there going on over the weekend. I think there might be one or two before the next Newcastle game as well. So definitely worth checking out. Let's just see if Blythe Spartans are playing a game. Spartans. Have a look. Oh, yep. They've got a game versus... it's away. They're playing away against Hereford Town. So that's a bit of a trek for anybody, but
bit of a trek.
Always good to catch up. And I think Gateshead are playing away from home as well. Yeah, a bit of a trek down to Hereford. Lovely part of the world, though. It's a nice part of the world, Hereford. But yeah, so there's some games. So I would go on Northern Football League, the Northern Football League website, and check out your closest game if you've got a little bit of time in your hands, because you know, who wants to be doing DIY on a Saturday afternoon? You want to go and watch it. Get a cup of Bovril and a greasy burger or a greasy hot dog and go and watch some non-league football in the cold. Oh, fishing rods here. Top game for you to watch here. Hayden Bridge, I believe. Under 10s are playing Reggif as well. There you go. Definitely worth a watch. Okay, so thank you very much to those people for joining us this evening, for watching us live and adding into the comments. Thank you so much for getting involved. And of course to Ian, who've joined us this evening, and get well soon to Raza and Laura. I'm supposed to be going to a gig with Raza at the City Hall tomorrow to go and see The Enemy. So hopefully he's sorted himself out and he's feeling a bit better for that. I'm sure we'll have a rip-roaring time. Him with his, you know, his tissues up his sleeve, and me with my car keys driving a car. Woo! Going wild. But thank you to those people for joining and commenting. So we've got Davey Eddie, we've got Fishing Rods, we've got Freddie, we had Malcolm earlier on, and of course we've got Marty, he thinks he just needs a battery in his ticker rather than your clock, Ian. So there we go. But thank you very much for those people. Judd Love, great name. I hope that's a real name. I really do. But thank you for those people for joining us and adding comments. Again, a reminder, we're so close to 9,000 subscribers. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, really helps us get us out there. If you want, you can become a member, just like Tom and Freddie and a few of the other guys who are on tonight. £2.99, you get all that extra content, little bits and pieces throughout the season. Loads more in store coming up. We'll be doing match previews, which Scott has talked about, and of course the All Smiling Faces podcast, which is available on YouTube, but also on wherever you get your podcast from. It's uploaded as an audio, so definitely worth getting your ears around that. Have a really brilliant weekend, everybody. Scott, have you got plans for this weekend?
Do I have plans this weekend? I don't think so, but we'll find something to do. It's Amsterdam. There's always something on, so providing the weather's all right, we'll head out with the dog and see what's going on.
And Ian, are you going for a run? Are your nipples constipated?
I'm never running again. I say I'm never running again. I didn't really run the Great North Run. Did about 3 miles. I seen Laura and Malcolm. They cheered us on, and then when I was out of eye shot, just started walking. So no running. I'll be entertaining the little man in some way, shape, or form.
Excellent.
Take up a non-league game.
By the little man, I'm assuming you mean your son.
Yeah.
I'll be entertaining the little man.
Yeah. I'll be entertaining Joey in some way, shape, or form.
Right. On that bombshell, I think we'll leave you. Thanks again. Remember to subscribe, possibly become a member if you're feeling a bit fancy. And thank you so much. Thank you too. And I'll see you next time on Extratyne on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. See you later, everybody. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.